Welcome back to round 5 of our premiere challenge here at Pokemon Labs and Psycho Turtle Collectibles. Vidoof has joined me as co-caster. This is what happens when you cast alone, guys. We got Josh, Denk versus Keanu. And this is going to be very interesting because these are both really good players. Now, ignore the sound effects from me taking the headset off. It was uncomfortable, wasn't it? Not uncomfortable for me, but Vidoof's head is shaped weird. Anyways, like I said, we got Josh with Denk and Keanu. What's really cool about these two is they are very prominent players, and this is going to be an exciting match because whoever wins this goes 3-2, has a shot. However, if you're out of it, if you lose it, go 2-3, it is game over. So this is a very crucial match. You're going to see Josh on the left with that King Gambit, Chien-Pao, Urshifu, Rapid Strike, Ogerpon, Hearth Flame, Amoonguss, and Raging Bolt. Keanu on the right with Chien-Pao, Urshifu, Rapid Strike again. Raging Bolt, Incineroar, Rillaboom, and Landorus Incarnate. What I really do like about the set, and this is something really fun about both Pokemon here, they have Urshifus. Both of them are Choice Scarf. Both of them have different Terras. One is Steel, one is Grass. None of them are Water. That's fun. What's really cool too is, and something I think that Josh can take advantage of in this matchup, is that Ogerpon's Terra Fire. Nothing threatening that ability from activating. There is Intimidate, but it's so strong on this match. The Chien-Pao, it's that if a Terra steals, you can bait out the Urshifu Rapid Strike and be like, nope, Ivy Cudgel. And if not, you can Horn Leech it. So it's like there's mind games with that, and I think that could be important there because it does also one-hit KO the Landorus Incarnate, which is a very, very important calculation. And that does threaten quite a bit of Joshua's team. However, we're going to see the mind games. I wouldn't be surprised if Keanu saves that Landorus for the back to just kind of pick up some stuff. But we're going to see Keanu lead with the Urshifu and Chien-Pao. Joshua leading with Urshifu and Amoonguss. So, like I said, these Urshifus are very unpredictable. They're both Choice Scarf, we know that. One of them's got Ice Spinner over Aqua Jet. The other one, that is Keanu's. Joshua's has Aqua Jet. So I think what Josh has to do right now, it's a matter of which Urshifu is going to outspeed. But I think regardless, like, Amoonguss is in a good spot. You just go ahead and Surging Strike, that's the right slot for Josh, and Spore the other Urshifu. It is not Grass Terra, it is Steel Terra, so it can go down to a Spore, but you gotta watch out for the Ice Spinner. The nice thing is this is Citrus Berry Amoonguss, so it'll recover pretty instantly right away. And then you could just Ice Spinner out, and we're going to see U-turn actually for Josh's side. I'm actually surprised. Thought we would see an attempted knockout of that Chien-Pao, but it's good to preserve your Urshifu. The only scary thing with that is now this Chien-Pao does have the potential to go ahead and just come on in and be like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and Ice Spinner your Amoonguss here. Actually, Icicle Crash. This one has Icicle Crash. We're going to see a double U-turn, though. So another U-turn. That one was a critical hit, so it does about 50%-ish. It looks like maybe more like 60%. And there's that Raging Bolt. That Brachiosaurus coming into field in place of Joshua's Urshifu. While Landorus, like I said, going to have a really nice time here, I think. It does have to watch out for some Surging Strikes, but it's going to have a nice time, especially now that this Amoonguss is gone. The Icicle Crash connecting with Josh's Amoonguss, and that is going to do enough damage to take just it out of play. Yeah, I was surprised we didn't see a Surging Strikes right away. That would have been a bit of a put more pressure on Keanu there. We're going to see Urshifu come on out now, and it's, again, puts more pressure, but I think right now the best play is to go for maybe a Thunderclap onto the Chien-Pao spot and then go for Surging Strikes on the Landorus. It's the safe play. Here's the thing, because it's a safe play, it's the obvious play. I think Keanu might swap out here, depending on what this last Pokemon is. It could be Rillaboom. We know it's actually... it's not necessarily the safest play to bring in Urshifu into electric type. I think it's probably going to be it's going to be between Incineroar and Rillaboom, I think. It could be a Raging Bolt, which would also be fine here. And it is Rillaboom, yeah. I felt like you kind of have to have big gut support here. But I think that was just a safe switch in. Surprised we can see the Landorus switch in, but we can see Landorus swap on out to that Urshifu. It is a safer switch, but it is instead going to Terrestrial. Here's the issue, and I'm not entirely sure on this one. I believe Terra Poison, it's such a 50-50 call. Sometimes it does get knocked out by Urshifu, sometimes it doesn't. It depends on whether it's Mystic Water, it depends whether it's Choice Scarf, depends how much attack you have invested. But you're going to see the Thunderclap just not connect at all. So that's turn 1. But the important thing here, the Surging Strikes, is not going to be enough. Landorus is really dependent on how much attack you give it. Some people go less speed, some people go more attack, some people go all bulk, some go special attack, and the Earth Power is going to connect with Raging Bolt to one-hit KO it, despite that. Yeah, it is. it's just brutal. You know, Landorus with that Terra Poison is just something you do never ever want to face. And I think if you're Joshua right now, you know what the play is. It's not the play you want to because you have to use your Terra. You can Terra Ghost and prevent a fake out on Chen Pao to get rid of the Landorus, but then your Urshifu, it's got to lock onto something, or you can Terra Grass and survive hits from that Rillaboom into the Urshifu slot. It's which one do you use the Terra on? I personally think you just right now we're gonna see Rillaboom switch out, but I think you have to go for that's. Hopefully, I think Keanu's like, you know, I'm gonna try and bait the Terra Ghost here and Sucker Punch it later. But I think the play right now is to Terra Grass. It's still scary, or just good call there from Josh by not Terraing at all. That's gonna help a lot. And if this is an attack coming out, we know it is either going to be Sacred Sword or Ice Spinner. The question is it going to try and break the terrain, or is it going to predict the switch out and just at that point it was such a risky play. But did Josh call the swap in? Gonna go for Ice Spinner. It's gonna do some damage, not quite enough. So again, now we're in speed tiers. Does this Chen Pao outspeed Keanu's Chen Pao? Because the Sucker Punches, and honestly, they're both Focus Sash. It's going to come down to whether or not it's physical, or whether or not it's Jolly, you know, Adamant or Jolly. And that could, but there's also the fake out potential. The thing is, I think what you do right now is, I think there's actually a pretty good play. It's again, so many 50-50 calls, but if you're Keanu, I think right now you bring out your Rillaboom. Could bring out your Urshifu, but I think if you tear it to grass, your Urshifu is going to be in a decent position. That's the key. You really want to tear it to grass. If you see the opposing Rillaboom come out, but we're going to see Urshifu, so it doesn't matter. But I was going to say, if you see the opposing Rillaboom come out, it puts pressure on the Chen Pao to Terra or fake out, and then Urshifu can get Ice Spinnered, and you can fake it out, knowing that Chen Pao is going to protect. It's so many mind games in this game. In this specific game, when you're facing a mirror match, it's like, okay, do I outspeed the other Pokemon of the exact same type? Like, do I outspeed the other Chen Pao? Do I outspeed the other Urshifu? It's literally a mirror match. I mean, we both have the same items and same on both, some different Terras, but regardless, it's just one of those matches, like, what do I even do? But I think the real nice thing here for Keanu is you do outspeed, you know, or you do have a nice type advantage with this. Ooh, we're gonna see Sucker Punch on the Chen Pao. We have a nice type advantage because Urshifu is already on Joshua's side, is already locked onto Surging Strikes. You can go for close combat, and that's gonna hit the Chen Pao really hard unless it teared the Ghost. But if it did, then you've got Sucker Punch on Keanu's side. So it's not like there's just so much more flexibility for Keanu despite having the exact same Pokemon as Joshua. We're gonna see Surging Strikes come out. I believe this is going to KO. The Sucker Punch was enough to just chip it. Most times Surging Strikes with Choice Scarf does not KO the Chen Pao. This time it is because of that Sucker Punch, and that's going to give, I would say it's going to give Keanu the game. Obviously you never know with Pokemon, especially because there is a slight chance that this Urshifu could, oh, Josh was just going to forfeit. Yeah, I was thinking, you know, we would probably see the Rillaboom switch out, and then at that point they're switching for the Urshifu slot on Keanu's side, you have the Terra to grass, and then just Surging Strikes the Chen Pao slot. But you know, it's one of those things where it was positioning that really survived, and also that Terra on Landorus. I think that's something you got to prep for if you're Joshua. Is like, yeah, that Landorus did so much on the Raging Bolt. It one hit KO'd it. I gotta really prep for that. And it's tough because Terra Poison is weak to Ground and Psychic. That is something that nothing on Josh's side. There's no Ground, and there's Stomping Tantrum, Ogerpon. That's it. So I still say this Ogerpon's going to be the key. And especially because we didn't see Incineroar, there was no Intimidate to threaten. Yeah, there was the Urshifu, and so you can't really Terra, and get your boost. But at the same time, you do have Amoonguss, and you can redirect, and I think that's kind of important. Especially, too, because I think the redirection is going to be really key here. Especially this Amoonguss being... It's not Protect, it's Citrus Berry. It's an interesting case, because it's Grass, not Clear Smog. It does not have Palm Puff, so you cannot heal yourself. It is basically a redirection machine. And I think you really want to just go for redirection plus Ogerpon. The question is, do you want to save it or start with it? I like this idea that Josh was toying with right now, which is the lead with the Urshifu, you turn out and into the Ogerpon. I'd say probably either Ogerpon or Amoonguss to support the Ogerpon, or possibly, I don't think you bring Raging Bolt into this matchup. I think you swap that for the Ogerpon. And then you just kind of focus on getting rid of the Urshifu and Landorus. Those are the two threats. So if you can position yourself right to get rid of those, the rest should be relatively easy. Meanwhile, on Keanu's side, I think you just bring the same 4. I don't think there's any downside. Wouldn't be surprised if we see this Incineroar Intimidate threaten just the opposing side, because when you look at Joshua's side, there's no way that this King Gambit's coming in. It could go for Terraflying, but the chances of it doing that are just not great when there's a Raging Bolt on the other side. I wouldn't be surprised to see a double swap. I think Landorus has to stay in. I think Chen Pao has to stay. Then the question becomes, do you need your Urshifu? Do you need your Incineroar? I think it becomes mind games, because now you know that Joshua's prepping for a different combo, because obviously game 1 didn't work. If you're Keanu, you're thinking, which ones do I bring in? Well, we're going to see Urshifu and Incineroar. Yeah, see, Incineroar was Ogerpon's worst nightmare at this point, but it is something that needed to come in. The hard part, or the nice part though, with that is, this Incineroar, it is Terra Ghost and Safety Goggles. So, it can't get Sport, but it is going to take some hefty damage from the Urshifu. I think you swap the Ogerpon out. Yeah, there's no way you want to keep it in. And then at this point, Surging Strikes onto the right slot is just really safe. Yeah, I think this just... Oh, no, that was another thing. I think that Joshua was a little too hesitant to click Surging Strikes and wanted to U-turn out. There's obviously reasons, a lot of potential reasons for that to happen, like, for example, if Raging Bolt was coming out. But I think right now, the important thing is you know that the 2 threats to your team and this Ogerpon is the Landorus and the Incineroar. Obviously, Incineroar are going to switch out. Now, if you have a Raging Bolt, would be a good time to bring it into play. And it is the Raging Bolt, but it's not actually the greatest position for Keanu, because this Raging Bolt's territory leftovers. It is susceptible very heavily to Spore, and if this opposing Urshifu decided to go for a physical attack and just try and hit the Ogerpon knowing it's a big threat, that's a free Spore on Josh's side, pretty much. We are going to see the Urshifu U-turn out, so was anticipating the switch out, and that's really useful if you could go into Incineroar here, because at that point you could just fake out and then Thunderclap with fake out. Dragon Pulse, double up on the Amoonguss, expecting a switch out. Rillaboom, also quite good. What's interesting though is that, if I'm not mistaken, that is the 4th Pokemon no Landorus this time, which was a very good play, because Joshua now was scared of that, had to prep for it. But it is now not... It's good, but there is a big if about that, and that is this Rillaboom, this Woodhammer, Grassy Glide, U-turn, fake out, no Stomping Tantrum. This Ogerpon pretty much sweeps it, so it's a very safe, I would say, switch into Ogerpon at the moment. I think you fake out the Amoonguss and then you go for the swap in to Ogerpon. If you know, the thing is, it's a very obvious play, because there's obviously you're not going to want to get Thunderclap with Urshifu. So the question is, do you Thunderbolt or do you Dragon Pulse onto that right slot from Joshua if you're Keanu? And Keanu's just actually going to go for Calm Mind. No, that works. It's the different set. Raging Bolt on... The Raging Bolt on Joshua's side does not have Calm Mind, it has Thunderbolt over Calm Mind. But that Calm Mind's pretty important. There is one downside to that, and that is you're still susceptible to Spore, and you do have Protect. So I think what the play is right now for Josh is, honestly, I think you Spore the Raging Bolt because forces to Protect. Switch your Ogerpon out into Chen Pao if you brought Chen Pao. And I think that is the key, because then you can Terra to Ghost if you need. I think after seeing that Landorus is in infield, you don't want to Terra your Ogerpon. It's in a spot where right now it can't do too much. It does hit solidly onto 2 Pokemon, but you're still threatened by the Urshifu Rapid Strike on Keanu's side. So I think right now, if you brought out your Chen Pao, this is a good time to bring it out. And then just hope that Rillaboom does not U-turn into that slot. Could also, yeah, Rillaboom was a switch there. I think it was safer to just hard switch to go into Incineroar, but Joshua called this, so this was a good call. Does the Protect happen though on the Raging Bolt? I think it probably does, but I think you kind of just have to spoil it regardless. You could also clear Smogget, but we're going to see Protect, yeah, so no surprise there. This Amoonguss, let's see, it can't really do too much on anything. The Stomping Tantrum's going to do solid. That is going to do not quite half though. And we are going to see Spore onto the opposing side. So the good news here is you get a fake out. If you're Keanu, and that's really, really solid. And it's not good for Josh at all, because this Ogerpon, it does have Stomping Tantrum, so it's powerful, but it's now intimidated. So you really have to switch out, and you're basically free to get another Calm Mind up. I think this is just not a good position for Josh. I think just one of these things is Raging Bolt it's like a truck if you don't prep for it. There is a really solid position right now, which is that Chen Pao. Actually, you know what I think? It's just right now, we're going to see another Stomping Tantrum onto the Incineroar slot. So no Fake Out. I'm a bit surprised at that. I thought we were going to see Fake Out plus Calm Mind again. But Dragon Pulse just going to come out and hit the Amoonguss. I think this is going to probably a double target onto the Amoonguss. And if this is a Flare Blitz from Keanu, it was a really good call. Because at that point, this Amoonguss is going down for sure. But it's a knockoff. And onto the Amoonguss, which ate its Citrus Berry. So the Spore connects with the Raging Bolt. That's big. That is really, really big. This is a very nice turn to reset your Amoonguss, go into something safer. I think the Urshifu right now, at least for one turn. You could also go into the Chen Pao and put pressure right away, but I would be scared of the opposing Urshifu. So I think it's smart, in my opinion, to go into the Urshifu and then Stomping Tantrum out onto that left side. And then you can go ahead and, you know, hard switch if you need back into Amoonguss on the Urshifu. Just basically use the turn to recover using Regenerator. While the Ogerpon, I think just, you don't one-hit K or pick up the knockout on the Incineroar at this point. So I think with this in mind, you should maybe double switch or just go for another Stomping Tantrum, knowing that if they go for a Flare Blitz, the Incineroar is going to be able to just go down. You could also go for a Stomping Tantrum onto a Raging Bolt, knowing that it can't recover too much. I mean, it gets leftovers and the Grassy Terrain boost, but is that really gonna do enough? Like, Stomping Tantrum is gonna do it does enough to chip it, where it may be in range for potential close combats from this Urshifu. And if this Urshifu it's going to Parting Shot, and it's going to Parting Shot into the Ogerpon, I think it's a bit better if you're Josh right now, because this is a pretty decent close combat onto the Raging Bolt, but you will go down to it because it can Thunderclap you and then Dragon Pulse you. So do you want to waste your Terra on it? I think it's such a mind game. So which one do you switch? Because this is not a good position right now. There's also, obviously, this Raging Bolt is asleep, but it's already used its one turn of sleep. And so, if you're no Pokemon, then you know that once you get your one turn of sleep, you cannot rely on any more happening. So you gotta play as if this Raging Bolt wakes up. And I think that's really what's the tricky part. Because if it does wake up and it's worst case scenario, that is not good. But you could take a risk and just go for a play where you double target it, assuming that it stays asleep. But I think, honestly, Keanu, it's a very interesting spot. I think the Urshifu is the play. And here's why. You want to reset your terrain. Here's what I think. If you're Joshua right now, you hope for a sleep turn in close combat, right? It's a safe play. It's a really safe play. You can now U-turn, though, out if you're Keanu and get the recovery going back up from the Grassy Terrain. The Grassy Terrain has now expired. I think Ogerpon definitely switches out. You're going to have to switch it into Amoonguss. I think you just hope for a sleep turn in close combat with the Raging Bolt. This will be a second sleep turn for the Raging Bolt. It's already been asleep one turn. That is very, very important. If it wakes up and goes for a Thunderclap, that is not good for Joshua, and that might seal the entire game. But if it is in a spot where it stays asleep, that's really, really, really good. Because at that point, you can redirect in close combat once more. And at that point, something heavy is taking a close combat. Ogerpon swapping. I believe it's going into the Amoonguss here. Yeah, that is the play. You need to. There's nothing. I mean, it's kind of important to get some Intimidates going. But you now threaten. Oh, we're seeing a Terra. I believe this is on Keanu's side. And it is the Terra to Fairy. It's not bad. I wouldn't say it's bad. It's obviously you predict the close combat, right? But you now are weak to Surging Strike. I think close combat is a little more. I mean, it's an obvious play because it is choice, and it does not get it to half. But the tough part is you're now susceptible to fire, which Ogerpon has. Ice Spinner going to go ahead and connect with the Amoonguss. I believe this is going to do a nice amount of damage, but it's not enough to KO. It's about a quarter of it. Raging Bolt does stay asleep. Really nice there. That is very, very useful. You know, you're actually not in a terrible spot for if you're Josh right now. The Chen Pao is now more of a sitting duck. It's definitely want to be used for later, but Ogerpon's in a really nice position, especially knowing that this is it's locked, the Urshifu is locked on Ice Spinner. I actually think you could switch into Chen Pao right now. I think actually you should just redirect and close combat the Urshifu, yeah. You can also go into Ogerpon or Chen Pao. Chen Pao's probably a bit better. Because, again, no, I think you redirect. I think you have to redirect. This Thunderclap could do so much damage. We're going to see a switch out. I'm guessing this is going to be into... It's Rillaboom. Okay, so a little different. I was expecting Incineroar for Intimidate damage, expecting the close combat to come out again. But here's the thing: if this Thunderclap wakes up, if this Raging Bolt wakes up and Thunderclaps, then this Urshifu is a goner. And we're going to see the Amoonguss switch out. This is such a risk. Are you going for the I believe this is the third turn of sleep potential. If the Raging Bolt wakes up, that's not good. Urshifu goes first. It did not actually go for a Thunderclap. A bit surprising that Rillaboom's going to take some hefty damage. Keanu, I guess, did not prep for that. Raging Bolt stays asleep. Okay, well. You should be feeling very happy if you're Josh right now. That is best case scenario, but it is still incredibly bulky. It's a Calm Mind Sweeper for a reason, and it just cannot get touched, but it can get spored again. That's what's really important. I think the Tyranitar Ghost is kind of obvious. I would probably Ice Spinner onto the Bolt. I don't think Rillaboom can do all that much. However, if it's a Thunderclap plus... if it is a Thunderclap and suspecting that you... Honestly, maybe the Tera Ghost wouldn't be the right play because, yeah, it is there with the Rillaboom with Fake Out potential on the field, but Grassy Glide also exists, and at this point, both of them would outspeed the Raging Bolt to a point, but then there's the Sucker Punch that could come out and knock out the Rillaboom, so it's so many 50-50 calls here. But the Tera Ghost is not bad. What's really important with that is you cannot get faked out with two Pokemon with Fake Out on the field, but I still think that it would be so beneficial if Keanu went for a Fake Out. The question is, did Keanu protect this Tera Ghost and go for a double attack? Also, it would be crazy if this Raging Bolt stays asleep. This next turn is its last sleep turn potential before it guaranteed wakes up. No, it went for no priority. The Raging Bolt is going to connect with get connected with the Ice Spinner, and this Rillaboom, I believe, went for U-turn, not Woodhammer, or Grassy Glide, or Fake Out. The good news is this Urshifu is actually, like, what's interesting for me is I have a feeling where's the Urshifu come out, and because of it could go into the Incineroar to Intimidate, but this is really not terrible for Josh. It's still looking bleak with that Raging Bolt on the field, but getting rid of that terrain is really important because it's only going to get one turn of recovery. And Urshifu definitely has to come in. The Raging Bolt does wake up this turn. That was kind of expected. Goes for a Dragon Pulse onto the Amoonguss. Definitely picks up that knockout. So it's not terrible, but there is Intimidate on the field, and it's probably going to come out from the left side. So I think right now, if you're Joshua, you're like, okay, the Intimidate definitely happening. They can Thunderclap me. That's not fun. But I think you bring out your Urshifu. I think you bring out your Urshifu and just bait out and then hard switch into Ogerpon. If you're Josh, get another Ice Spinner out, lock them on to Surging Strikes. You could go into Ogerpon as well. It's just a little concerning because there is Intimidate and you cannot afford too many switches because Amoonguss is such a safe switch into this game. The rest of your three are definitely physical attackers, and at that point, you really do not want to afford an Intimidate. I think Ivy Cudgel's relatively safe. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Raging Bolt switch out, but you have Horn Leech on the field, and so you kind of have to go for a Horn Leech onto the Urshifu. But I think right now what Keanu's going to do is going to U-turn out on this Urshifu, go for probably a Dragon Pulse onto, go into either, and then go into Incineroar, knowing that this Urshifu slot is going to get targeted. Whether it's the Chien-Pao or the Ogerpon, it doesn't really matter. It's going to get a nice resist there. Raging Bolt protects. I'm surprised. I believe we're going to see U-turn out here, though. Yeah, no surprise. And I believe that's going to go into Incineroar. I just think that's kind of the play. The really scary thing about Raging Bolt is it's got Thunderclap, so you're going to be able to outspeed the opposing Urshifu. But there is one thing that can really help that, and that is if you have Aqua Jet. Because you're going to outspeed Raging Bolt. So that's kind of the play. I think if you see both of these in play, then obviously you have another issue, which is the priority of Grassy Glide from Rillaboom. So I think this one's still really good spot for Keanu, just because this Raging Bolt's so hard to get rid of and has the leftovers and Rillaboom's recovery from the grassy terrain, that the best play is to, with Rillaboom coming in, hard switch out, back into Chien-Pao, and You got a hard switch. You got a hard switch and then spams those sucker punches. So I think right now you target the Horn Leech actually KOs though. Okay, well that's important, very important. That was something that I thought was not going to happen, and that is now huge because you get rid of one of the most important factors of this match, which was Grassy Glide and priority. And now with that out of the field, you are safe to do some nice switching in with Incineroar. You can play around that a bit, but I still think I think obvious play right now for Keanu is to go into Incineroar, fake out onto the Ogerpon, and then it's Thunderclap. I actually think Dragon Pulse is a bit better because I wouldn't be surprised to see an Aqua Jet come out from Urshifu. It is intimidated, which is scary. I think Ogerpon's got a Spiky Shield though. Actually, you know what's interesting? You could go for Spiky Shield and then just hard switch, go for that. Because the Raging Bolt is Terra to Fairy, you could go for an Ivy Cudgel onto it. It's going to do some solid damage. And you know what, partner? You could also just double target right now and go for Aqua Jet plus that Ivy Cudgel. But what Joshua did here is very, very risky. If this Thunderclap is predicted, it's obviously a threat. But now it becomes a 50-50 call. Do you target it, knowing that the Thunderclap could absolutely just destroy you, or do you risk the fact that they're going to predicting a switch? The fake out goes into the Ogerpon. Is the Thunderclap? It does come out. Yeah, and it is enough to KO. You know, most of this commentary has just been about knocking out this Raging Bolt because it puts so much pressure on Josh's team. And I think that was exactly why. You know, there is so much damage that this thing can do, but not only did that Thunderclap really help Josh because you are now, or help Keanu, sorry, because now Josh is down to his last two, but also something that's important is this Ogerpon is -1 from an Intimidate. It's not going to do a lot of damage onto anything. And so at this point, I think what you got to do is you got to go for, I think you Sacred Sword the left, or Horn Leech the left, anticipating another switch in, and then go for an Ice Spinner onto the Raging Bolt. That's probably your best bet, but even then, locking onto just these last two is really difficult. I think that was just, it's something that, again, Raging Bolt, Terra Fairy is something, if you don't prep for it, it will destroy your team. And we've seen it. I think it's surging more in usage now than it has in the past, and it's already been very used because it's so versatile. It's got so many different options. You have Calm Mind, you have Dragon Pulse, you have Assault Vest. We're going to see, by the way, the Sacred Sword does knock out the Incineroar, but I'm just saying Raging Bolt has so many uses that it's so scary to face. And we are going to see a Horn Leech. This is going to connect with a Raging Bolt. Does a solid amount. It is somewhat physically weak, which is, at least helps. But that Raging Bolt, and it is going to connect with a +1 Dragon Pulse onto this Ogerpon. That is enough to get him 21 HP. I think that's enough for 3 minutes of battle. It shows you how that Raging Bolt can just sweep. It is insane. With a Calm Mind set, it is nuts. And so we're going to see Urshifu come out. And at this point, I think you just log on to Surging Strikes, post the Thunderclap onto the... I would Surging Strikes onto the Ogerpon, knowing that obviously he can't protect anything, and then just Thunderclap the Chien-Pao. At that point, Chien-Pao can't really do anything to touch either one. I don't think after a -1 that it can knock out this... yeah, the Thunderclap does knock it down to 5 HP, and we're going to see Surging Strikes that does connect with the Ogerpon. So at this point, you basically have to one-hit KO it with Ice Spinner, and then hope that Sucker Punch one-hit KOs the Urshifu. I don't think that's going to happen. Ogerpon faints, and we're going to see Ice Spinner come out, connecting with the Raging Bolt. It is enough to KO. All right, Sucker Punch time. Man, it shows you Raging Bolt. It is brutal, and that is why ground coverage and in this case, ground coverage is so useful. Parry coverage as well, because it just does not. And the Sucker Punch is going to connect. Doesn't do a third. Keanu goes 3-2, makes it. A very good chance at this point that we will see Keanu in the top cut of the day. What a match. You know, like I said, it was basically like, if you've ever played Pokemon Go, it was like a raid battle on the field, where it is the entirety of Josh's team figuring out working together to beat that one Raging Bolt. And because it just took so much damage, and was able to like recover it thanks to the leftovers and grassy terrain, and then protect stall and calm mind. It just made it very, very difficult to play against. Terra Fairy also helped because at that point you cannot go for close combat, forces that Urshifu to switch out, and there was just so many options because if you Terra Fairy, now Ogerpon's in play and very useful, but if you don't, then Ogerpon is kind of stuck not doing a lot of damage against it because it's resisted. Just a very, very brilliant play from Keanu there. Just masterfully used the Calm Mind, knew when to Thunderclap, knew when to protect, knew when to attack. It was just, that's what I've been saying, like we said with the last match and this match. Understanding your team is the most important thing, and that's exactly what Keanu showed, and let that Raging Bolt alone command the entire match. But that's it. I'm going to get some water. I know Bidoof has been talking a lot too, haven't you? But we're going to be back with our top 8 very soon.